let's get on with the show and kick off with our opening session, where I have the great pleasure of having a chat with two highly influential and lovely people. Please welcome to the stage Fabien Deswarte from L'Oréal and Schick from Evonik. Nice to see you. Look, it's really.
I'm sit here.
Okay. Here we are. I think people have made it with the train strike. May have slowed a few people down. Ute, lovely to meet you for the first time, and Fabien, lovely to see you again as always. We have 25 minutes to give the audience a taster of where biomanufacturing is on the corporate agenda of big business and the role of your individual companies within that. So before we dive in, perhaps you can give an introduction to the audience. Ute, please.
Yeah, I can start. Thank you very much. My name is Ute Schick. I'm leading the business line of cosmetics, care solutions in Evonik. Evonik produces surfactants, rhamnolipids for the cosmetic and care market, but also biolysine, for example, in animal nutrition, and we are upscaling partner for pharma, food and cosmetics for biotech.
Thank you very much. And Fabien?
Thank you first of all for the invitation to join this session. It's great to see you again. So Fabien Deswarte, head of strategic partnerships at L'Oréal. In brief, I'm helping coordinate all our engagement with external partners, developing sustainable, innovative cosmetic ingredients for our 40 plus brands.
Thank you very much. Okay, first question, if we're sitting comfortably. We all know that if biomanufacturing is to scale and get price parity with fossil, that the biggest companies in the world need to lead from the front as they have the biggest influence. Ute, you are a big company and you supply lots of other big companies. Where do you think biomanufacturing is on the corporate agenda, and is it spoken about in the boardroom?
Yeah, definitively it is, because it's not, I think something is wrong with my mic. Is it okay? I hear something. Okay. Definitively it's in the board every week even, as it is a major business of ours, and we built and invested quite heavily into biotech in the past decade already. So of course it is very important for us and for the board. Additionally, also if you see it at our major customers such as L'Oréal, Unilever and others, it's really important in their sustainability agenda, and it's not changed now because of all the news in the world.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear, because there are some businesses, I'm sure, where maybe it has dropped down the agenda a little bit. And Fabien, how would you comment on that?
Same as we said, I think for us, sustainability is no longer nice to have. This is something we is discussed at board level all the time. And I will mention later on one of the new initiatives we're launching in our space.
Yeah, okay. And Fabien, many of us know, because you're a big supporter of ours, that L'Oréal are one of the leaders in exploring and using bio-based alternatives. But why would you say there are not more of the biggest beauty, cosmetic and personal care companies in the world following your lead, or even here today?
Well, I can't talk on their behalf. Having said that, I would say that sustainability is definitely an important matter for the cosmetic sector as a whole. I would say that each company takes its own approach to sustainability. Some aspects might be prioritized over others. For example, decarbonization might be a very important aspect for many companies. It's a very, very hot topic at the moment. For L'Oréal, decarbonization, of course, is a very important matter, but for us, defossilization, what I would call defossilization, is also important, i.e. making sure that we're moving away from using virgin fossil resources as a source of carbon for the ingredient we use in our products.
Do you have any comment on that?
For sure. I think sustainability as such has not changed. Of course, some ways of moving forward might have changed in the recent past. However, the strong goal on CO2, but also biodegradability, etc., is still holding very much true. And I think also in the long run, it will set the scene in the bio and biodegradability finally. However, I think what has changed in the past decade is that it also has to come with performance. No, green is not a value proposition by that anymore. So nobody will pay more for sustainable products. It's really about performance and sustainability. But anyway, the way is paved. We have to go that direction.
And even in the few years that I've been involved in this sector, it used to be sort of using bio as a, I don't know the official phrase, but sort of a drop-in and replacement. And then over the last few years, said, no, we can be better performers. It doesn't have to perform the same. It can perform better. Would that be something that you would both look at?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitively. I think that's the goal, no? That you bring something which is biodegradable, has less CO2 to the world, but also has a better performance. So that's where all our R&D is working on.
Yeah, that's the win-win.
Absolutely. Better performance, multifunctionality. I think you might have mentioned your rhamnolipids. That's exactly where we're looking for to justify sometimes the higher price that the ingredient might bear.
Yeah. And we have a nice session by Deloitte around pricing, and obviously that's something that goes through the conference a lot. So we talk about, I'm interested in how you're working together and how you're working with sort of startups and scale-ups. We know that, as demonstrated by the audience, the majority of the sector is startup and scale-up. So to both of you, what are you doing individually and what are you doing together to change this sector dynamic so we increase the size of the commercialized head?
Okay, so first I would say that we at L'Oréal make some of our ingredients, but I think the vast majority of ingredients are coming from suppliers like Evonik. So we work very closely with the most innovative suppliers of ours to innovate, to develop, to deploy sustainable solution on the market. So first of all, leveraging their innovation pipeline. So they develop ingredients themselves without independently of us, but through co-development with some of these suppliers. What we've done as well over the last few years is working with a growing number of startups that have technologies, that have solutions that might meet some of our unmet needs. What we've learned over the last few years is that, and that's no surprise, but scaling these technologies is very challenging, especially for startups. Building a new plans, it's can be very, very challenging. So that's why we believe that we need to develop new ways of working, new engagement models. And a good example of that is a tripartite alliance we've launched last summer. So that was after the last year's World Bio Market. That's why we couldn't talk about it then. But last summer we launched a tripartite alliance with Evonik and with a French biotech company called Abolis. I believe they're here today. If they they've managed to, I don't know if they were coming by train or not, but anyway, hopefully they are with us. And as part of this tripartite alliance, Abolis are developing strains, they're developing their process up to pilot scale, which is their forte, their core expertise. And then Evonik, and then I'll let you tell a bit more, obviously have a great asset and expertise in scaling up and industrializing. So they are scaling up the process, in industrializing the process up to industrial scale, and then manufacturing ingredients, and then obviously L'Oréal are the venture clients for the beauty sector. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add, Ute, on that.
You mentioned it very well, yeah. I think the major really is partnership, no? And not any company can do it on its own.
Yeah.
And that's so important, I think, in biotech, as it's so high investments, but still at the end, no, it's really valuable to come out. So what we learned over time is really to help each other, to scale together, and also see the opportunity, who is in what very good, no? So for example, Abolis, what Fabien just mentioned, is a very good company which has a yeast fermentation know-how. But then with our scaling know-how, it fits very well. But so everybody knows where he or she is good in, and then we bring the forces together and make something new to the world.
Yeah, and in addition, I would say that as Evonik are present in many verticals, so they sell product in many markets. Some of the ingredients that might come from that tripartite might then be sold in another market, hopefully de-risking the investment, helping us achieve higher economies of scale as well.
Yeah.
And obviously there's significant benefits of partnering with organizations like yours, and part of this forum is sharing those failures and avoiding the pitfalls, right, so that we commercialize as efficiently as possible. What are the common sort of pitfalls that you've seen over the years, or that you would say, if you're only going to do one, or if you're only going to avoid one or two things, avoid these one or two things? Ute, to you first.
I can start. Yeah, we what we noticed in the past, especially working together with startups a lot, is to tailor the market and think from a technology push. You understand the market. So I would suggest anybody investing in that field really to look in: is the product later on viable? No, is it really something which adds in that industry, not only from sustainability, but also from a cost in use and performance, of course. It has to have that certain wow effect. And also, does it justify the huge investment later on? So I think those kind of elements to put together. And then there's down to earth normal things like regulatory, quality, etc., so that you really start with the right regulatory environment. Now we have in Europe quite some challenges around regulatory, so that you really are based for the future. And I think that's very important for any startup and all other companies.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there are a few things. We only have 15 minutes left.
There's a long list, is there?
I would say, first of all, thinking at scale from day one. This is something we discuss a lot. That seems obvious, but trust me, it's not. So it's when you develop a process to biomanufacture a new ingredient, it's from day one. Do think about how it will look like at scale. Am I using things that are readily available? Is the process scalable? Do preliminary TEA, techno-economic analysis, as soon as possible. Often we hear, but no, it's too early. I don't think it's ever too early. And I think it allows us to say a quick no rather than a long maybe, which is very, very important. And we've seen it with our tripartite. This is a sort of approach we're taking. And in some cases, well, we need to say no. And in some cases, we see that makes sense. And then we'll continue on focus our efforts on these specific opportunities.
Yeah. That's an interesting quote, a quick no rather than a long maybe. Yeah. But that's good for everyone to know as well, right? That's a good message, I think.
And it's difficult because we always think, maybe by doing this, we might be able to do it. Well, no, in some cases you need to make choices. And if you feel that they might not fly, let's kill it fast and then move on to something that would be more likely to succeed.
Yeah. And I think there's you mentioned, Ute, sort of not sticking to the basics and the reality. What are the building blocks of getting to scale and having a good business? And I know that Rob van der Meer is doing a session on investment, and I know one of the messages there is, okay, in choppy waters or in certain times, double down on the are you doing the absolute basics sort of perfectly before moving on to the dream necessarily? And I think we also talk about perfect first in progress here. A few minutes ago, I'm glad because we didn't say this in our prep meeting, but I anticipated the word collaboration would feature in one of your answers, and it did. So that helped me out. But in my opinion, it's sort of an overused and under-delivered word. When we talked about collaboration in our prep meeting, Ute, you said that everyone needs to get naked. Now, apart from terrifying me that this panel discussion would turn into something a little bit unusual, we are in the Netherlands after all. What did you mean for that?
I think what I learned over the decades in the businesses is really about trusting each other for long term in biotech. So you have to come together as companies, being a startup, being large companies, being a big leader in the cosmetic field. We have to trust each other, from the very beginning. We have to really help each other to understand the other's position. So actually, there cannot be any secret. What Fabien just mentioned, a lot of startups, but also us, sometimes use the word, it's too early. What does that mean? No, it's too early. I cannot share it yet. Maybe they are doing some patents. I don't know. And then my technology is blocked. So this mistrust, which comes from, most probably experiences of some people in the past, is that you don't trust each other to go that move. But this openness, this really openness until, all details are known from the other, reach that first step, and then only you can, really scale it together and de-risk it together, because then you understand the motivation. Additionally, with the stakeholder, can be Fabien and myself today, but in 3 years the leaders might change. So it also needs to be very strongly bonded to the boards of the companies, that it really keeps the continuity and not changes. What we see a lot happening is the change of agenda pretty quickly in business, and then you lose those long-term investments which we have. So that's what I meant with naked, that there's nothing you can hide anymore.
Yeah.
I agree, and I think, as one of my colleagues would say, partnership is not a zero-sum game where for one partner to win, another need to lose.
Yeah.
We need to consider each other as equals and try to see what we can do to all flourish. The only win-win will happen is if we're putting our shoes in other partners' shoes and see how they can benefit as well as we do.
And as you say, that's a cultural thing that needs to come from the top. It needs to come from your chair people, your CEOs, or the board, etc. Right? And it will filter down to everybody else, and then out to the sector, which I think is, everybody here wants that. A little bit of an international question, Fabien. Through the events we hold here and in the US, it's quite clear that biomanufacturing is more of an environmental imperative in Europe, and more of a value chain defense strategy in the US. Not wanting any sort of political answers. Agree, disagree. It's not that simple. Also, just to add in a sort of part B, obviously we're launching an event in Singapore. I know you do a lot of work in Asia Pacific. Any things that we should be looking out? What's your opinion on that sort of part of the world, and how we might partner together closer?
Okay, so you've got several questions in there. I think it's fair to say that obviously environmental concern is main driver for biomanufacturing in Europe, with strong focus on sustainability, circular economy, with regulations like REACH, while in the US, building biomanufacturing is more about security of supply. Having said that, I think it's there are two levers that we can and should pull to accelerate the deployment of sustainable solution. I was looking at the program last week. I see that Michelin, for example, are talking later on. I was talking to one of the Michelin representatives last week, and clearly for Michelin, and I'm sure they'll mention it later on, they are building a new demo industrial plant, building one to manufacture one key building blocks for industry, and they're very clear about it. They're doing for sustainability and security of supply reasons. So they're not things that we can oppose. And so that was for your US question, I believe. For Asia, it's very interesting what's happening over there, especially in China. In cosmetics, China has been a very big market for cosmetics for quite a long time. But what we've seen over the last few years is that China is becoming a very important innovation hub, at least for biotech, for cosmetics. And there's several reasons for it. It's biotech, biomanufacturing, especially medtech, is a top priority for Chinese government. So there's a lot of money coming from central government, from public government, from local government to support new companies. So we're seeing startups growing at incredible pace that we would not see in Europe or in the US, with manufacturing plant being built in a few years. They're fully capitalized. This new players fully capitalized on the academic centers in China that are doing quality work. And last but not least, we see a number of Chinese nationals who probably studied or work in the US, especially in the area of biotech, going back to China, setting up their own companies. And with the money that's available, they're growing very, very fast. We're monitoring this very closely. We've just announced that we made our second investment in a green biotech startup in China a few weeks ago, company called Fabien. And I know that some of our big suppliers are also very active in these zones and are partnering, acquiring, investing in some of these new startups that are growing very, very fast.
Anita, what's your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it already started some time ago, this local for local, no? Not only our bigger plants in the more commoditized market have everywhere a regional hub. It now goes more and more into specialties per region. It makes sense from a sustainability standpoint because you don't transport the product. No, you can produce and then use it with CO2 reduction, but then you ship it over the ocean. So somehow it's intuitive. So I think it's important that we invest in specialties also in the region. And then also partner up with some companies which are already maybe successful in the region, but also invest locally more than we did in the past. And that started already, but I think also from a sustainability, not only from a political standpoint, it makes a lot of sense that you produce locally. I was recently in Brazil last week. We were looking into biodiversity. We bought a company which does extracts from the Amazonas, very sustainably sourced and very nice stories around. But if you then ship them around the world, no? So that's so how can we make that a better world, better way to market those products?
Okay, great. I see we are coming to the last couple of minutes. We mentioned this phrase a few minutes ago, progress over perfection. And it started to become a bit more common over the last few months. And I wonder if you can give me sort of one sentence from each of you that reflects your thinking on that phrase, progress over perfection. Ute, please.
I'm a strong fan of beta testing, no? That you really bring something on the market, and then get better on it. However, in biotech, as it is such an investment on a long time, no, you have to very early somehow get together with a strong partner like we do with L'Oréal, that we really are sure, no, the product later on is really serving what we actually want. So being fast in the first steps is important, but watch out that the product is really valuable.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Fabien.
So in one sentence might be tough, but as we just said, performance is key. Our consumers won't want to compromise on performance. But what we see, and we've had many discussions with some of our suppliers like Evonik, is that for some application, having products or ingredients that are both high performing on perfect from a sustainability point of view might be a challenge for some applications in the short or medium term, because the supply is not ready, because technically it might be difficult, or even from economical reasons. So there's progress over perfection in that case makes a lot of sense. We see that in the short term there might be opportunities to deploy some solutions that will be high performing, but might not be perfect from a sustainable point of view, but will be an improvement versus what's already on the market and might be fossil derived. So for us, that's something that we talk a lot about internally and with some of our partners.
And I think that clarity for those bio-developers and producers in the room, that they sort of manage the expectation on, progress versus perfection, and that it doesn't have to be delivered in a perfect way to start the conversation, but there needs to be an end goal in mind and all of the milestones that you sort of mentioned, and thinking about scaling when you start and all that sort of stuff. Okay, perfect. We have a few seconds left. So listen, that wraps up our lovely chat. Ute, you'll be here for most of the day, I believe. And Fabien, you're going to be here for the 2 days. The most on-demand person always at the event. I know how many meetings he has been invited to. I shall tell you all. He won't be able to do them all, by the way. But before we hand over to our next speaker, which is Jim from DMC, I believe you've got a little bit of news to tell the community.
Indeed, we haven't done much communication around it so far, but I'm delighted to say that we've just launched a sustainability accelerator program, backed up by an investment over 100 million euros over 5 years. So the objective of this new accelerator, so to say, is to help us accelerate the deployment of a near-market sustainable solution in response to some of our unmet needs. So we're going to launch a first call for proposals towards the end of the month. This is open to any types of partners, startups, SMEs, larger groups. So you can, if you have, I'm free if you have any questions, but 2 things to bear in mind. Once, we're talking about near market solutions, so not research. And secondly, you will have to respond to one of our unmet needs. And again, in this full call for proposals I mentioned, we'll clarify some of these unmet needs that we've got on our side. So very exciting times, and more to follow.
Brilliant. Well, thank you. And that's a great thing to announce at World Biomarket. So, okay. Well, listen, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it, and have a wonderful sort of rest of your event. And please put your hands together for my 2 guests, Fabien and Ute.